and banking consultant Bob Lyddon said the Prime Minister's remarks also highlighted the fact that the process has consistently benefited Scotland at the expense of England. Speaking earlier this week, Mr Johnson told Northern Tory MPs devolution was predecessor Tony Blair's biggest mistake and a disaster, according to multiple reports. Mr Johnson subsequently refused to comment publicly on his reported remarks, but did accuse the SNP, led by Scotland's First Minister Nicola Sturgeon, of seeking to use the issue to break up the UK. The 1997 Scottish devolution referendum, held as part of a Labour Party manifesto commitment, asked voters north of the border whether they wanted their own parliament, with tax-varying powers. The result, a resounding yes, paved the way for the creation of a devolved government in Edinburgh, currently led by Mrs Sturgeon. For Unionists, Tony Blair's settlement has been a total waste of money and effort. However, Mr Lyddon, director of Lyddon Consulting Services Limited, said far from securing the union, Mr Blair's decision had had the opposite effect. He told Express.co.uk, "All Boris has done is to give voice to what we all know. The special status and increased funding granted to Scotland has encouraged separatism rather than damp it down." For Unionists, Tony Blair's settlement has been a total waste of money and effort. Tony Blair created in Scotland a false prosperity based, not on Scotland's intrinsic capabilities and still less on the good governance of the SNP, but on English gold in two ways. Referring to figures contained within the Annual General Expenditure and Revenue Scotland (GERS) report, he explained, firstly the annual union dividend of £2,000 per head. Secondly, a top 10 global financial centre now managing English pension funds, that is after its two big banks collapsed. The false prosperity created by Blair and Brown had played into the hands of the SNP and enabled a completely bogus economic prospectus for independence, Mr Lyddon claimed. He said, the Blair-Brown template for Scotland included a bloated banking industry in the form of Royal Bank of Scotland and Halifax, Bank of Scotland. Scotland gained massively from the breakneck growth of these banks in terms of jobs and lending into its extensive Rust Belt. Scotland was the main beneficiary of the permission granted to RBS and Lowe's to embark on reckless expansion, but when they both collapsed, it was the UK as a whole that took on the debt to rescue them. It was the English regions to whom austerity was meted out as the cost of the RBS and Lowe's bailouts. Scotland's union dividend remained sacrosanct. During and after Indy Ref 1, the successors of Blair and Brown, Cameron, Clegg and Miliband, promised to double down on the devolution settlement and award the SNP an even more generous deal, under the recommendations of the supposedly independent Smith Commission. Boris has broken with the conspiracy of silence hanging over the union dividend and the ministrations of Blair, Brown and the Smith Commission, allowing the key questions to be posed. Have these measures strengthened or weakened the union? Is the current situation fair on England? Is the current situation financially sustainable given the impact of COVID-19? Speaking after reports about Mr Johnson's remarks surfaced, his official spokesman said, "The PM has always fully supported devolution and this government continues to put the union in the heart of everything that we do. He will always stand against those trying to separate the United Kingdom." He is very clear that he rejects the Scottish National Party's call to break up the UK. Mr Johnson himself said, "I think what has unquestionably been a disaster is the way in which the Scottish National Party have taken and used devolution as a means to constantly campaign for the breakup of our country and to turn devolution into a mission to break up the UK." Express.co.uk has approached Mr Blair, former Labour Prime Minister Gordon Brown and the SNP to offer them a chance to respond to Mr Lyddon's remarks.